Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Jaya Nitai Jaya Gaur Jaya Nitai Nitai He, Nitai He, Nitai He, Nitai He, oh, Gaura He, Gaura He, Gaura He, Gaura He, Gaura He, Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, oh Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe, oh Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Ganhavika Giridhari Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Omasto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Omasto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Omasto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Omasto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Srila Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Arupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantamana Paityam Apaiti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tammayatayo Taravo Benedustam Sarvabhutam Munim Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptas Chakarmarita Rangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Bharadram Tato Mamanasti Katyena Kapi Tavaivasmi Najigami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Rate Tvam Nayamam Charanatikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat Pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishima Chila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishima Chila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And to our dearmost Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namini Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varaite Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Vaishnavas Ki Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So continuing our Jaiva Dharma study here, and we'll go through. Every time I hear this Falshruti, it resonates differently, or it confirms what I've already appreciated. For me personally, it's never ever repetitious, not for a single minute. Every time these conceptions are so profound and deep, and it gives us an excuse, a chance to actually contemplate them again. And the nature of transcendental statements, we can say, or like this Falshruti, is that they are ever increasing in their meaningful gifts that they can benedict the world with. So every single time there's a deeper appreciation. And if this is not happening for the reader, if he's feeling it's mundane and boring, this is probably because he's not chanting very much. This is probably because his own spiritual progress. It's no defect. It's no repetition here. I mean, we should always, when you go into your places and you conduct Jaiva Dharma classes, you should always scroll through the Falshruti. It gives it a platform of what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is wanting to actually share with this Jaiva Dharma. It gives the entire Siddhanta from A to Z of all spiritual precepts, etc. So where we are, this the last four, I think. Jaiva Dharma pate se Shuddha Bhakti hoy, Jaiva Dharma na padile kabe bhakti noy.
One who reads Jaiva Dharma with faithful deliberation will surely attain Shuddha Bhakti. But one who does not read Jaiva Dharma can never attain Bhakti.
Not reading Jaiva Dharma means you're not really interested in the fundamental precepts of Bhakti. Bhakti has, certainly in this Brahma Madhva Gaudiya line, we have certain gruntas that are like keystones to stepping through. Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, and Jaiva Dharma is one of them. And so many literatures, of course, Ujjvala Nilmani by Rupa Goswami, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, etc. So there's key gruntas that we should be familiar with. So this Jaiva Dharma is one of those. So if you're not anxious to read Jaiva Dharma, what does it mean? It means you're not really interested in the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because these Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote this 200 years ago, approximately. What was it? 1897. How many years ago is that? 150 years ago, something like that. So he wrote that at that time. But prior to this, there was no up-to-date, so to speak, current coming of the teachings of Mahaprabhu. We have the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which need to be absorbed by the acharyas and then passed down to us. Because the acharyas, when they drink these divine beverages, they give it back to us in a much more clear way when we read the commentaries and purports, etc. And we get much more clarity on all the different topics that we're going through. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's picking it up like almost halfway through from Rupa Goswami to Bhaktivinoda Thakur to now. It's 2/3 through. But we understand that there was that dark period, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he rose the whole of the respectability of the Vaishnava Dharma into the public field. And this was part of the support for that. So if you're not interested in to read that, if you don't think that this Jaiva Dharma has value or authenticity, then perhaps we should be in the Sri Sampradaya or something else like that, Ramanujas. This is only about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So yes, one who does not read Jaiva Dharma, and again, it's like yesterday I was commenting that we have the Swarup Lakshan and we have the Tatashta Lakshan. In this order, it's the Swarup Lakshan first and then the Tatashta Lakshan second. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is very systematically doing this. Rupa Noga Abhiman Pate Drita Hoy, Jaiva Dharma Vimukha Ke Dharma Hine Koi.
Faithfully reading Jaiva Dharma will surely strengthen one's Abhiman as a Rupanuga, follower of Sri Rupa Goswami.
Because Rupa Goswami is the one who is gifting us with Mahaprabhu's teachings and instructions. Mahaprabhu only gave the Shikshastikam, not only, but everything within the Shikshastikam is contained within the Shikshastikam, but it needs to be opened. Rupa Goswami, he is giving us that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He's giving us the Vidagdha Madhav, Lalita Madhav, Ujjvala Nilamani, Upadeshamrita, all these extraordinary gifts describing the teachings of Mahaprabhu. So he's giving this for posterity.
One who is averse to reading Jaiva Dharma is certainly devoid of religious principles.
Again, same thing. If we're not actually favorable towards this Jaiva Dharma, we have to say like this because it's not the most popular scripture in the world actually today, but we want to propagate it. We want to put it in the forefront. My Gurudev, he translated it from the Bengali into the Hindi. It wasn't translated into Hindi before Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj requested that. And then as soon as it was in Hindi, it became much more popularized. And then from the Hindi edition, we translated it into English, which is what we have today. Previously, there were English editions, but they were very difficult to actually, or I found them very difficult to access, because the translator, he had tried to anglicize all of the Sanskrit terminologies and give them English equivalents. But it's much easier, I find, once you know what the Sanskrit terminology is, then straight away it's like a button goes off. When you say rasa tattva, you know what that means. You don't have to say the mellows of this or that or the other. You don't have to describe it in a flowery way. So this is much more kept close with the actual text of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It doesn't sort of veer at all. So this is in this line of Rupa Goswami. So we're very fortunate. Yava jivane je pade jaiva dharma. Sorry. Java jivane je pade jaiva dharma. Bhakti manase jnana vrita jnana karma.
One who faithfully reads Jaiva Dharma throughout his entire life will be endowed with bhakti and will surely realize the futility of Gyan and Karma.
Yes, we've described before how so many scriptures coming from Vedavyas were prominently of the Gyan Kand or Karma Kand in the Puranas, etc. This is what predominantly he was. They weren't predominantly. Bhakti was there, of course, but it was covered by Gyan and Karma because Mahaprabhu had not advented at that time, because this was not uncovered yet. This Aishwarya Bhav had to be propagated to give men faith in devotion just to God. But then, of course, Mahaprabhu manifested, and a whole different dynamic, actually a revolution began with Mahaprabhu, going into Bhakti Ras. Bhakti Ras was never there. Braja Ras, Braja Prem was never really Parakiya. But the gift that Radharani and Krishna are bestowing is service to that Unnata Ujjvala. And only Mahaprabhu is that one who actually is giving that in this whole complete day of Lord Brahma. 8,640,000,000 years, one time. And it only comes for a brief period of time. Perhaps, 1,000 years at most. It's not going to perpetuate down into Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga will become very dense, more dense than it already is. There will be so much wars and famines and things like this, challenging men's minds. But my Gurudev has said that it's not for a long time that these windows into Brajaras are going to be open. So it's at this point in time. So somehow or other, we are so fortunate to be here at this time and to try to capitalize on these gifts. Krishnera Ramala Seva Lavi Senara Seva Sukhe Magnaraha Sada Krishna. So what I was saying just before is that Gyan and Karma, they can cover Bhakti. If Gyan and Karma, these two paths, are pushed prominently, what is the destination of Gyanis? It's moksha. So these 4 Purusartas, they were most prominently spoken, isn't it? In South India, for example, everyone who has not been touched by the speciality of Mahaprabhu, they will immediately think, the purpose of life is mukti. Of course, purpose of life is moksha. This is the purpose. It's only the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that has turned this around. But it's very confidential, like Mahaprabhu's own personality was confidential. He never liked to hear himself glorified as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He never, his vigrahas today should never wear peacock feathers, etc. That's proclaiming him as God. He never wanted that. He came with a specific purpose himself to taste Krishna. How can he taste? How can he be the Ashraya if he's been worshipped as the Vishaya? If everyone is worshipping him as God, how can he taste himself, which was the objective of his birth? Shiradeya mahima kidrisho vanaiva swadyena dvada madhurima kidrisho vidya sokyam kasyam mad anubhavita kidrisham tad bhavadya samajani sachigarbo sindhu horindu. He's come with these three desires. If you make him God, you're denying him access to fulfilling those three desires. Our beloved Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would cry when he'd go to some temples and see a peacock feather on Mahaprabhu. Why have you tried to propagate him as that Supreme Lord? This is not his mood. This is not his mood at all. His mood was always confidentiality. Although in Puridam, of course, it's much more exposed. Puridam is Aishwaryadam. Puridam is like Dwarka. When he exhibits those extraordinary symptoms of these Sattvika Bhavs exhibitions, the tortoise, etc., and being in the ocean. These are Aishwarya exhibitions. They're not Nara Lila. They're not human-like pastimes. So we should appreciate him. He's described in the Manashiksha as our Bhajan Shiksha Guru. Of course, his Swarup is Krishna. But if you're going to worship Mahaprabhu as Krishna, you're going to be denied the speciality and sweetness of Radha's mood, because it's Radha's mood that he's come to taste. And if you worship him correctly, you will get those beautiful moods that he himself is wanting to taste in that extraordinary Vipralamba mood, in the Gambhira, what he was experiencing there. So we see him like this. It's a very subtle distinction. We appreciate him entirely as Krishna directly. But when in our worship, we're appreciating what he came to taste himself. So we're honoring him from that mood. If you try to honor him in some other way, separate from what he wanted, how is that going to be pleasing to him? If you're trying to honor him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's not going to please him particularly. Is it? It can't please him. So try to appreciate this point. Krishna Ramala Seva Lavi Senara Seva Sukhimagnaraha Sada Krishna Para.
Such a man, being fully devoted to Shri Radha Krishna Yugal Kishore and having attained their Amal Prem Seva, remains forever merged in the bliss of such immaculate loving service.
This is the conclusion. This is the conclusion. What does love mean? It means your empathy to the object of your affection. So the empathy of our object of affection is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So to understand Gaura Tattva is very deep and very sweet and very special. But it's principled by Mahaprabhu's, Krishna's desire to taste. He's come here to taste Radhika's moods. That's why he's come. He doesn't achieve those highest states of bliss in his Krishna avatar. When he's here 5,000 years ago in the Ras Leela, Radharani is experiencing Madanatya Mahabhav and Modan Mahabhav. Krishna is not. Krishna experiences Mahabhav. But these blazing Sattvika Bhavs, Krishna does not have, because Radharani has more prem than Krishna has. Radharani has more affection for Krishna than Krishna has for Radharani. Krishna is called Bahusaka. He loves everybody. He has relationship with Yashoda, Nanda Baba, everyone. Radharani is only singularly one focused. Every atom of her body is only focused on Krishna, completely. But Krishna is his Bahusaka. It's spread. It's not singular. So to appreciate who is Mahaprabhu is the core of our bhajan. Daily, 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 we should be absorbing this Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, etc. Praying for Mahaprabhu's mercy to appreciate his avatar more and more. And we get this through the gift, through the power of the gift of the name. This will propel us into that deeper appreciation of who is Mahaprabhu. He's a personality. He's the personality of Godhead. So we have to acknowledge and don't try and smear some conception on top of him. Oh, but I want you to be my supreme Aishwarya Lord. That's like putting a conception over him. It's like my Gurudev said one time, before he left this world, of course, he was saying that, oh, when I leave this world, you will glorify me so much. And he was saying it in a sarcastic way. Like, you will put so much distance between you and me because you're glorifying me so much. Sometimes we make heroes. You know, when someone is in the, historically, we create a bigger impression of them. But actually try to go back to the actual time when they were there and develop that very personal, that's the most personal relationship. So to remember, for example, I'm talking about my Gurudev, when he was on the planet, how he was, what he was saying, how he would do things, etc. This is like in the present being with him. But if I just try and say, oh, he was the greatest, then the more times I say great, the more I step back from an actual intimate connection. Similarly with the Supreme Lord. Understand his nature. From Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can catch this from these conversations with Swarup Damodar, with Rai Brahmananda, etc., in the Rai Brahmananda Sampad. All of these really nectarian pastimes. Okay, so we've come to our subject of 463, I think we're up to.
465.
465, sorry. How did I get there? 460.
Maharaj, the other book.
Oh, yeah. I was tracking down the distinction of the changes in the editing of the books, and I discovered today that this 20th chapter was taken out separately and edited for one specific book, Journey of the Soul. So it was re-edited. So it's only this 20th chapter, I think, that has been re-edited from the 2010 edition or the editions prior to that, because what we're reading, some of the devotees might be thinking, well, that's not what I've got written in my book. So there's quite a distinction. But this 20th chapter in particular has been really quite heavily edited. It's completely different, actually, in a sense. It has the same meaning, of course, but it's got a different editorial gloss to it. Okay, so 465. Yes, we just read down that last paragraph. So we were discussing about Guru yesterday, this Guru Padashraya, these first 10 principles. So we'll continue there where we left off. Vijay.
Vijay, please tell us about accepting.
Oh, I just want to say, to thank Rasamanjari for giving us she's given us a type of a map of the chapters and the titles and the prameyas and how they all fit each other. I think it's very, very helpful to get the continuity of the Dasmula completely, get it in context so that we can memorize it and keep it there and carry it with us always and know where the different chapters are. It's very, very helpful. It's like knowing where the chapters are in Srimad Bhagavatam. When you read the Priti Sandarbha or any of the Sandarbhas or Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, it's like they run up and down the staircase of the Bhagavatam. They're so familiar with all the different chapters, etc. They've imbibed it. And similarly with Jaiva Dharma, we should have this mindset that within this lifetime, I'll completely absorb fully all the teachings of this Jaiva Dharma. This will give me Shuddha Bhakti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur just said it. The words of the Mahabhagavat are Satya Sankalpa. They will give us the fruit of what they're saying. So, okay, Vijay.
Vijay, please tell us about accepting the Krishna mantra, Krishna Diksha, and also about Shiksha, or receiving instructions regarding bhajan and instructions regarding serving those mantras.
Yes, serving the mantras, very important. Okay.
Babaji, while accepting Shiksha from Sri Gurudev on the process of deity worship, Archana, and on pure devotional service to the Lord. One should, in a mood of simplicity, perform service to Sri Krishna, Krishna Seva, but also earnestly cultivate uninterrupted performance of pure spiritual service, fully abiding in, conscientious of, and devoted to the pleasure and welfare of Krishna. Krishnanushilanam.
That means favorably disposed towards Krishna.
Later, we will separately discuss the limbs of Archan. It is most essential to receive Sri Gurudev's instruction on one's relationship with Krishna, Sambandha Gyan, the process of devotional service, Abhideya Gyan, and the ultimate goal, Prayojan Gyan.
Sambandha Gyan is that generating our entire dependence on Krishna. It's like the limbs of Sharanagati. It's making that full connection, Sambandha. I fully embrace my identity personally as a servant of Krishna eternally. And the Lord is my worshipable personality. So this Sambandha should be growing. Once we asked my Gurudev a question, how can we tell if our Sambandha with Guru is growing? And he said, like, if a man is dying, what are his last thoughts? If his last thoughts are on his Gurudev, then he should understand that his Sambandha is very strong and very thick. And then he was saying himself, he was saying, like me, my Sambandha is always growing. I am never feeling that I'm doing enough for my Gurudev. My Gurudev would do a festival 365 days of the year, wherever he was. He would arrange for a festival. He never stopped speaking Harikatha from morning till night. He never stopped counseling devotees, writing, etc. He never stopped his seva, not for a moment. And yet he didn't have the impression that he was pleasing his guru enough, because that sambandha has to be dynamic. It has to be growing. There has to be greed and enthusiasm. If you complacently think, oh, I have pleased my Gurudev, I've done so many publications, I've preached so much, I've been all of doing this and this and this, yes, I've done enough, then where is your greed? You'll just go to sleep. There'll be no more dynamism there. We're always feeling a shortfall. Otherwise, there can't be any greed. Well, I did this and this and this. This is the false ego. This is the trick of Maya. We want to keep in that dynamism, that ecstatic, not static.
Vijay, what does it mean to perform Guru Seva with faith? Babaji, one should not consider Sri Gurudev to be a mortal man or an ordinary jiva. Rather, one should understand him to be the embodiment of all the demigods, Sarva Deva Maya. One should never disobey him, and one should always know him to be a transcendental being, Vaikunta Tattva.
But actually, in our line, we should always know these personalities to be Shri Radha, Kaya Vyuha. All the manjaris, where are they coming from? They're all coming from the body directly of Sri Radhika. That's where they're coming from. So in our line, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, etc., Srila Rupa Goswami, all of these personalities, they're all directly coming from Sri Radhika. Sri Radhika's Kaya Vyuha, that's their origin. Not only filled with all the demigods, etc.
Can I ask about Abhideya Jnana? Because Jnana means knowledge, but translation is process of devotional service. No Abhideya Jnana. Samartha Jnana, Abhideya Jnana. But there is both knowledge and comes together with Abhideya.
Knowledge in Sambandha, knowledge in Abhideya, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Abhideya Tattva, yes. This is what we're, if I understand you properly. Sambandha Gyan means knowledge of my relationship.
Yes.
Who is Krishna? Who am I?
But Abhideya Jnana.
Huh?
Abhideya Jnana. Abhideya is not
Abhideya is the means. Abhideya is the means to know. Gyan means have knowledge of this.
Yes, but what it means Abhideya Jnana? Because Okay.
Abhideya Gyan means knowledge. This is what we're actually discussing now.
Yes, so that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Because I don't understand.
Abhideya Gyan means what is the process, what is the means to attain bhav. And the process is following the 64 angas of bhakti. Navada bhakti also. All these we discussed in the previous chapter, 19. What is Navada bhakti?
But the knowledge and practice is different thing.
Well, hopefully the knowledge or the practice will turn into vigyan. That's the process. If you're practicing and you're understanding, but it's not manifesting at some time in realization of these truths.
His question is Abhideya means process.
Process, yes.
So how can you say it is Gyan? His question is that.
Because you need knowledge of the process. You need knowledge of the process. If you just say process, what process? What is the process? Oh, the process is following the 64 angas. The process is following Navada Bhakti. This is the process. This is what we're being enlightened. No, it's a good question. It cleared for everybody. This is very good. That's good. Thank you.
Vijay, what does sadhu marga anugamanam, to follow the path of the saints, mean?
Yeah, this is the knowledge again. He's asking question. How to follow the path of the sadhus. How to do that. That means knowledge. Avideya.
Babaji, sadhan bhakti may be described as the means one adopts to fix one's mind on Krishna's feet.
You know, very often when we ask a question, it's answered in the next paragraph. So many times I've experienced this with Jaiva Dharma in particular. You have a question and you just keep reading and bang, there's the answer, bright as day. You understand, Prabhu? It's giving your answer straight away.
But it is one's duty to follow the path that the previous great personalities, Mahajans, have followed. Because this path is always free from misery and hard labor, and is the cause of all auspiciousness.
Yes, if a path is full of obstacles and difficulty, like Gyankand is like that. The impersonal path is certainly like that. But this path of, what was that? Pratyakshavagaman dharmyam rajavidya rajaguya pavitram etumutamam pratyakshavagaman dharmam susukam kartam avyayam. This path is joyfully performed. In the 9th chapter, 2nd verse, it's saying like that. Krishna is saying like that. This path of rajavidya rajagu, this enlightened knowledge of bhakti, is joyfully, susukam, joyfully performed. Not difficult.
Samargyam shreyasam hetum pantah santapavarjitah anvatapa shramam purve yena santa pratashtire. Skandapuran. No person can perfectly define the course or path of devotion that one should follow. But the previous Mahajans, following each other in succession, have made this path of Bhakti Yoga clear and simple, step by step.
It has to be updated. That's what I was trying to explain previously about this Jaiva Dharma in the Falshruti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying the Jaiva Dharma, because each time it's like a continual current. There has to be a, what is it, a voltage, what are those? Transformer, yes, to kick the current on into the present day circumstances, time, place, and things change. This is all about the subtleties of men's consciousnesses, and there's changes that happen. So the acharyas, they can accommodate those changes in their presentations. When we read the very ancient language of the ancient scripts, like 3,000 years ago, it's very difficult for us to actually comprehend it. But when we read an updated version of that, then it's very simple. Oh, this is what he's saying. This is what he's saying. Yes, same truth. Of course, it's the same truth, but the language is crafted to suit the time, place, and circumstance.
They have made it easy and have removed all the obstacles, great and small, so we can follow it fearlessly. Therefore, it is one's duty to depend only on that path. Even if one is performing single pointed, undivided bhakti of Sri Hari, his bhakti can never bring any good fortune if he is violating the rules of Shruti, Smriti, the Puranas, and the Pancharatras. One should understand that such unauthorized bhakti will only be the cause of confusion and disaster.
Yes, because we'll become bewildered. If we follow carefully the dharmic path that is chalked out, we will be successful. Absolutely.
Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpatayeva Kalpate Brahma Yamala quoted in Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Vijay, please tell us clearly how unauthorized Hari Bhakti can be the cause of disaster. Babaji, single pointed and undivided consciousness in Shuddha Bhakti is only obtained by depending on the path given by the previous Mahajans. One cannot attain single pointed consciousness if one leaves the path of the previous Mahajans and creates another path.
In our experience, we have our original teachings coming from Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And if you're familiar with his lectures and listen to him, it's practically, I would say, every minute and a half, he's quoting. He's quoting Shastra again and again and again and again and again and again. He never leaves the confines of Shastra entirely, trying to make this impression to all the wayward Westerners who aren't used to following any type of legislation, like the hippies that he was preaching to. They just want to be free to do whatever they want to do. That's the mentality. And that's can be dovetailed into Krishna consciousness, because we can be liberated from the material pressures, etc., to perform the making money and stuff like that. That can be liberating. So they had that consciousness, but they had also at the same time the desire to do anything they pleased. Wine, women, everything, just, whatever they wanted to do. So these boundaries that Prabhupada gave to the Western culture, you didn't have the same experience here in India. You had from the very beginning, from the early days, you had the acceptance and respect for Shastra. But in Western countries, that respect had to be built from scratch. So when Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was preaching again and again and again and again, any lecture you pick up, he's just quoting constantly, constantly.
Consequently, Dattatreya, Buddha, and other teachers who were not able to understand Shuddha Bhakti accepted a shadow of this mood and propagated the very insignificant paths of Mayavad Mishra, Bhakti mixed with Mayavad, and Nastikata Mishra, Bhakti mixed with atheism.
Dattatreya is manifesting from Vishnu. The three sons of Anasuya, the wife of Atreya Rishi. She begged for those three sons. And from Shivji came Durvasa. And from Brahma came Soma. And from Vishnu comes Dattatreya. So they had their origin in Vishnu. And yet here, these personalities, and Buddha also, we have Buddha avatar, right? So how is Buddha avatar not understanding Shuddha Bhakti? How is that? That wasn't their goal to present Shuddha Bhakti, because they were presenting Buddha in particular was focusing on ahimsa. He was trying to prohibit the slaughter of men. Had started to eat animals at that time. This was something 3,500 years ago when Buddha first advented. So he advented specifically for this. And then there was the second Buddha, Sakya Singha Buddha, which is what people follow today, which is a complete Mayavad version. So all of this history is there for us to appreciate. But Babaji is mentioning this now this Mayavad Mishra can mix in by what these personalities have given, Dattatreya and Buddha.
They designated these as single-pointed Hari Bhakti, but in reality, the paths that they put forward are not Hari Bhakti at all.
Very bewildering for the general populace. Yes.
They only create immense confusion and spiritual disaster.
Mm.
Now, in the bhajan of spontaneous devotion, Rag Marg, there is no regard for the rules of Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatra, and so on. The only concern the followers of this path have is to follow the inhabitants of Braj.
That's just bringing it to a completely other level, isn't it? The only concern is to follow. What did Rupa Goswami say? Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtanam Smitya Kramana Rasanam Asidya Tishtem Praje Anuragi Janugami. That the sadhak should follow the and who are the residents of Braj? The pure devotees are the residents of Braj. They are the real residents of Braj. The Mahajans in our line, Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, these are the real residents of Braj. These are the ones we're for, not someone who's just sitting in Vrindavan today watching all television and doing all kinds of. This is not necessarily a Brijbasi. They live in Vrindavan, they have some atmosphere of that and so on, and we respect them fully. But at the same time, who are the real Brijabasis? The real Brijabasis are those great servants of Sri Radhika. Always Sri Radhika's maid servants are there in our line. So we are serving them. If we're serving them, then we can become qualified to be a Brijabasi. That is the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's saying this here. Path is to follow the inhabitants of Braj. Go on. But sadhaks who are qualified.
Sadhaks who are qualified for Vidhi Marg must depend only on the path of bhakti shown by Dhruv, Prahalad, Narad, Vyas, Shuk, and other Mahajans.
There's a distinction. There's this huge statement here between Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. Those Vaidhi Bhaktas, they will follow with their. Understand this point very, very clearly, because Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, for example, has told us that we should read the Prahlad Charita at least 100 times. Prahlad Charita. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, it's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, when he was sitting at Tota Gopinath with Gadadhar Pandit, would relish Dhruva Charita. He would relish these pastimes of Dhruva. So none of these pastimes can be minimized one bit, but we should know what is beyond these pastimes. There is more than this, because we're hearing, don't start with, it's a question of Vaishishtya, it's a question of speciality. These personalities are Mahajans. Prahlad is one of the 12 Mahajans. Swayambhuvamana, etc. They're the Mahajans. And we're following them. But we are also following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. And we're coming to a higher appreciation. Understand? Not many people are going to understand this, you know. This Raganuga Bhakti is not for the general people, really. You will never find in your life thousands and thousands of people following Raganuga Bhakti. It was the gift of Mahaprabhu. But thoughtful personalities are rare. Most are very comfortable being constrained by Vaidhi Marg. They're used to rules and regulations. Yes, sir. 3 bags full, sir. Yes, I do what I'm told. I walk around like a robot all day. Yes, rules and regulations, they fit me, you know? So it can fit into that category of that mentality of fear. Vaidhi Marg is governed by the principle of fear. I am doing these activities because I'm afraid if I don't do them, the sky will drop on my head. Or I'm afraid I won't get some fruit. I will get fruit if I do this, and I won't get any fruit if I don't do this. So it's completely materially motivated, isn't it? Why do people in the West go to church? To save their souls. They don't go to offer devotion. They don't even know the conception of devotion to the Lord. It's tragic. I mean, the gift that we have of devotion is monumental. really, really appreciate it, that we have this quality that we've been described as pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti. And it's when the heart opens in attraction to serve the Supreme Lord. How rare is that? Everyone is suffering in this material world. All they're thinking is, how can I stop my suffering? How can I achieve bliss? We all come to this path because we want one thing. We want to be happy. That's why we even come to the path. Even we stay in this path because we want to be happy. Until some transformation manifests, and then I realize that actually the real true satisfaction of the soul is not about me. It's about the ability to offer devotion to Krishna through Radhika, through her servants. So this devotional mood, pure devotion, will manifest in the core of the heart and flower. It'll bloom. It'll come out like that. It's not something mechanical. It's like going to church, saying your prayers, just going to the temple, offering some puja, something like this. There's some background dialogue going on about your desires, etc. So Shuddha Bhakti is a whole nother leap forward, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is expressing this distinction between Vaidhi and Rag.
That is why Vaidhi Bhaktas have no alternative but to follow the way of the sadhus.
Yes, so a Vaidhi Bhakti must follow according to Kram, it's called, according to the directions of the Mahajans. We are also following the same. I was saying to you the other day that you asked the question, we are following Vaidhi Bhakti till we leave our bodies. Vaidhi Bhakti includes Ekadashi, includes going to Mangalati, includes all these different activities. These are all under the category of Vaidhi Bhakti. And we follow them happily. But we follow Rag, Anuga internally. This Rag Marg is an internal path. And Vaidhi Bhakti is an expression in the external world. It's with the limbs, etc., the mind, the consciousness. And Vaidhi Bhakti is so purifying for the inner self. But the path of Rag is an internal meditation. When I'm taking this Harinam, after some time, I will connect with a particular sound vibration if I'm listening carefully to the Mahamantra. And that sound vibration will reveal what? All of Krishna's pastimes. That's what it has the potency to reveal. And why should I practice this unless I want to hear about Krishna's pastimes more than I want my own well-being? My own well-being depends on me hearing about Krishna's pastimes. This is the soothing balm for the soul. This Harikatha, Tavakatamritam, Tattva Jivanam, we sing in this Gopi Gita, that the gopis are saying, these persons who are distributing this Harikatha, they are the highest benefactors of the world. Harikatha, if we develop a greed for Harikatha, we should feel very, very fortunate. You know, that is the current, and that's a spontaneous, because it can't be an imposition. Even Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada said right at the very beginning, this is not an imposition for the soul. It's not, you can't force it. So we have to pray for that spontaneous attraction to come naturally in the heart. It's our nature. That's the nature of the jiva, to have that attraction, that spontaneous attraction. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavsa sadhanavida. Nitya siddhyasya bhavasya. This nitya siddha, this eternal identity, is within the heart, prakatam ridi sadhite, in potential. It's there. It doesn't need any, you can't push it. You can't force bhavs to arise. They arise spontaneously. So it's a science, most sublime science. But there's a distinction that we're discussing here between Vaidhi and Rag.
What is the meaning of being inquisitive about Sadharma and the procedure of bhajan? Babaji, Sadharma means real dharma, or the dharma of real sadhus, and one should inquire.
Sad means real. We have the sadhan, the sadak, and the sadhya, and the sadguru. All of these terminologies means the pure, the real, this process.
Sad dharma means real dharma or dharma of real sadhus, and one should inquire enthusiastically to understand it. Vijay, what does it mean to give up enjoyment for Krishna's sake?
Hmm.
Babaji, material enjoyment, bhoga, means enjoying happiness for the pleasure from the pleasure of eating and so on. The bhoga is usually opposed to bhajan. So bhajan becomes easy when one gives up such enjoyment for the purpose of Krishna bhajan. A person who is attached to material enjoyment is just like a person who drinks alcohol, for he is so much attached to the objects of his senses that he is unable to perform Shuddha Bhakti.
It's confusing when you indulge too much. It's actually not, it's intoxicating. The more we indulge in the pleasures of material senses, the more intoxicated we become. Our process is to cool down, is to sober up. I wrote a poem once. I chant and chant, never hearing a sound, just the wheels of my mind going around and around. My prayer, dear Lord, is to sober up fast and put all this nonsense into the past. You know, this nonsense are these various material desires for material pleasure, rather than using my God given intelligence to develop my devotion. It takes time to develop devotion. The devotion is already there, but the covering is so thick that we have to purify that avidya by our practice. That's what our practice will do. It'll uncover the pristine spirit soul's nature of spontaneous attraction to Radha and Krishna. And this happens most easily in the realm of Vrindavan. When we're living in Vrindavan, surrounded by all the holy places, and we're having remembrances of Giriraj Govardhan is there. We circumambulate, we go to Suryakund, Varshana, Nandagan, all the Kamyavan, different places. And these always, they're like Udipan, just bringing us waves and waves and waves of fresh remembrances of Krishna's pastimes. And then when we take to Harinam chanting, all these pastimes will actually manifest. And here in Goradam, thanks to the munificence of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has literally himself uncovered this dham. We read in Navadvip Mahatmya, Navadvip Bhav Tarangini, the uncovering of this dham is by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's proclaiming this forest of Godharam, for example. He, in his meditation, is seeing Radhe Shyam Sundara enjoying their pastimes here, because this is non-different to Nandagan and Varshana. All these places are here. So the sadhak has to appreciate the speciality of these holy dhams. This is great udipan for bhajan.
Therefore, we should not enjoy material food. Rather, we should only honor and serve Bhagavat Prasad. One should protect the body that we use in service and also give up all kinds of enjoyment on Janmashtami, Ekadashi, Falguni Purnima, Narsimha Chaturdashi, and similar days. What does it mean to reside in dhams such as Dwaraka and places near the Ganga and other holy rivers? Babaji, faith and steadiness in Bhakti Nishta, arise in the place where Bhagwan's blessed appearance and other pastimes took place, and near pious rivers such as Ganga and Yamuna, the Ganga and Yamuna. Vijay. Thus, if one resides in Sri Navadvip Dham, one becomes purified. Is the Ganga the cause of this, or is there another cause as well? Babaji. Aho, one receives all the benefits of residing in Vrindavan if one resides anywhere within the 16 kroshas of Sri Navadvip, and especially if one resides in Sri Mayapur. Ayodhya, Mathura, Gaya, Kashi, Kanchi, Avantika, and Dwaraka are the 7 holy places that give liberation. But among them, Sri Mayapur is the most important dham.
Hmm.
The reason is that Sriman Mahaprabhu has caused his eternal abode, Shvetadweep, to descend here. 4 centuries after Sriman Mahaprabhu's appearance, this Shvetadweep will become the most important dham above all other dhams on the earth.
Repeat that again.
4 centuries after Sriman Mahaprabhu's appearance, this Shvetadweep will become the most important dham above all the other dhams on earth.
That means beyond Puri, beyond Vrindavan, beyond the... Because why? This is Gupta Vrindavan. This is the speciality of this age. When we connect with Mahaprabhu's moods, his identity, like I was describing before, what does Mahaprabhu want when he comes as his avatar? What does he wants to taste Radhika's prem. That's why he's come. So when we're in Vrindavan, we're remembering Radha and Krishna together. But the conception of that Unnata Ujjvala Ras is not as potent as it is actually here, because here it's realized by Mahaprabhu. When Mahaprabhu was dancing in Sriva Sangam courtyard, it's described that he was experiencing all those moods of Madanakya Mahabhav at that time. So it's in the atmosphere. And this is what he wants to give us as jivas service to. So the gift is being distributed from here. Krishna himself is Lila Purushottam. He was enjoying those pastimes in Vrindavan himself. He wasn't distributing them. No one even knew about them. Not even Mother Yashoda, Nanda Baba. Not even the Sakas. Some Sakas had an idea, Subal, etc. But most of the Sakas didn't know what Krishna was doing. Right? But here, we can all understand what Mahaprabhu was actually doing. Tasting that Madanakya Mahabhav in Navadvip is higher than Puridam. Even though in Puridam it seems amazing, but it's actually Aishwarya Dham, I described just now. Because those exhibitions of those Sattvic abhavs that Mahaprabhu exhibited are beyond Nara Lila. They're beyond human-like Lila. Therefore, it's Aishwarya. That's how it's considered. But here is only Madhurya. In Puri, there are no forests. There's no river Jamuna. There's no Ganga Devi. None of those Udipans are there in Puri. There's all the Udipan of Mahaprabhu's bhajan in the Gambhira in Puri. Puri is a most selective place, but it's not the same as this Madhurya Dham in Navadvip. We should know the distinction very clearly. It's our duty to know the distinction. The distinction between Vrindavan and Navadvip. Even though they're exactly the same, there is Vaishishtya, there is speciality here. In this age in particular, Bhaktivinoda Thakur just said, all these, yes, all these places on earth that, what is it? Become the most important dharma of all other dharmas on earth is here. At the moment, we, particularly on our generation, are most fortunate because it's mostly covered. You can't see everything. When you go to Radhakund today, we went before, the residents don't even know it's Radhakund. They have some other name. Remember the name? What was it called?
Barakobla.
Barakobla. It's another name. They don't even give the name Radhakund. Only the Gaudiyas go there. They appreciate this is Radhakund. But even the local residents don't understand where these places are. Even Gorkhrida, just down the road, the locals don't understand what that place is. So we have a service to do for Bhaktivinoda Thakur to assist in uncovering these exalted holy places so that future generations will come and they will be able to see more easily, more instantly, the glories of this Dham.
By residing in this dham, one becomes free from all kinds of offenses and attains Shuddha Bhakti.
Even lying down, sleeping, Mahaprabhu accepts it as obeisances when you lie down in this Dham. Vrindavan is very strict. Vrindavan is like if you veer off the edge, you will get really cut. But here it is so liberal for residents of Kali Yuga coming from the conditioned world. This is such a gift that we can be supported here, even sleeping.
Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati has accepted this dham as non-different from Sri Vrindavan. In fact, in some places he has shown that it is even more glorious.
Okay, we'll stop there. So this is very wonderful. Of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a resident. He's a resident right here where we're actually broadcasting this Jaiva Dharma. He lived here for 20 years. So his atmosphere is here. The Mahabhagavat, he has a certain potency, so much potency, which can radiate actually out. And if we become in tune with that, particles of that dust can penetrate the hard hearts, and we can begin to appreciate. By discussing these truths of Jaiva Dharma, don't doubt for a second that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is very, very pleased. He's the one who is inspiring all of this completely. We're doing nothing, we're just coming, sitting here, listening. But actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur is orchestrating this completely. It's his mercy. So we're praying for his mercy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Dharma ki jai, Surabhi Kunj ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Vanshakal Patulubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vevacha, Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha.